Pace met with reporters yesterday. The question that is on the minds of every Bears fan who is desperate to see Justin Fields, not Andy Dalton, play in the regular season. Here's Pace talking about the decision to go with the Red Rifle over the Ohio State rookie week 1 against the Rams.
We're just in a good position with Andy. It starts with how we feel about Andy, and we're very confident in him and where he's at. So there's no need for us to rush Justin.
Ryan, if Justin is the future of the franchise at quarterback, and the coach is saying he's ready to play, how is it not in the best interest in the long term of the franchise to start the process of Justin playing and learning?
Because we feel Andy's in a good place too. You know what I mean? So it'd be different if we didn't feel that way. We feel Andy's in a good spot too. Like we're confident in Andy, and there's a lot of things with Andy. I know we've talked about it before, but his experience, he's won a lot of games in this league. His decision making, his intangibles, his leadership, all the things that he's doing. There's so many veteran players that have come up to me and made comments about Andy Dalton and what he's doing in practices, in the locker room, in the huddle, all those little things that I think we're going to see pay off as we get into the season. So it's more about Andy right now. We're excited about Justin. I'm more excited than anybody, but we're just going to let this thing play out.
Hey, they paid him $10 million. Money talks in the NFL. Yeah. $10 million. They believe in him, and they're trying to set this up as close as they can to Chiefs 2017. Alex Smith starts, Patrick Mahomes sits. It's a far different scenario. We've talked about it many times. They're not going to make that work. The question is, will Dalton play well enough that it will quiet the "we want Justin" crowd?
Right.
It's on Dalton, just like it's on Tua in Miami. It's on Dalton in Chicago. The only difference is the Deshaun Watson in the Chicago example is already on the team. But it's the same idea. If you want this plan to work, Bears, you better make sure Andy Dalton delivers. And if Dalton wants to play, he has to earn it. He has to play well. He has to win it. And the problem will become if what people see with their eyes during Bears games is Dalton's not getting it done.
Right.
But then after the game, the team is saying, well, that wasn't his fault. No, this wasn't his fault. No, this wasn't his fault. We're going to stick with him. That's when the pressure is going to become potentially overwhelming on the team to make the change.
That's why we are where we are right now. I mean, you just said it. That's what happened in the preseason. I guess they like where Andy Dalton's at. I'm sure he's practicing well. But he did nothing in the preseason to make the fans go, oh, I get it. We're good. Andy is good. This is the right situation. I mean, no, it was underwhelming. There's no other way to say that. I mean, he was the starting quarterback, and they were down 27-0 to the Bills. I don't know. What? That's not a good look for him. And then Justin Fields has gone around looking like a Greek god. I mean, this is the only play of the preseason for Andy Dalton. Here we go. That's it. Throw it up. Unbelievable catch by Adams. I mean, he pulled the ball off the guy's head and caught that ball. Chicago Bears fans, they've been around football for a while. They know what the hell's going on there. I just come back to, this is different, again, than the Kansas City Chiefs. The Kansas City Chiefs knew Mahomes could bring them to a new level, but they didn't, need him right now. Oh, my gosh, we got to have you. And I'm like you. I mean, I'm still like, if you played him in the first year, who's to say he wouldn't have been awesome that year too? I don't, right? I mean,
they may have another ring.
Right. I mean, maybe he's more ready in year 2 in that AFC Championship game against the Patriots where they struggled for the first 2 quarters or whatever before they finally got it going. So I just look at it still that, this is not going to fly in Chicago. It's a smart football fan there, and they've seen it. And Cincinnati's not far down the road, and I'm sure they've seen enough there with Andy Dalton. Justin Fields has a lot of talent. You can do special things with him, and I just think Andy Dalton's on a week to week. It's like you said. You're right. It's week to week. How does he play against the Rams? If it's good, okay, he'll get to start against the Bengals. If it's really not good and they struggle, I think we're going to see Justin Fields early on in the year.
Unless the Bears are committed to this agenda of Andy Dalton, and they warp reality and say, even though the rest of us may think Dalton stunk, no, he was good. No, look, this play wasn't his fault. That play wasn't his fault. The fact that we gave up 28 points in the second half wasn't his fault. I mean, there are ways to spin it if you want to and say it's not his fault if you're committed to continuing the Andy Dalton at quarterback. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. They clearly are going with him week 1. And then week 2, it's the Bengals. You got to let him play against the Bengals. After that, that's when things are going to get very interesting for the Bears. But look, in my mind, this is all about 2022.
Yeah.
You don't trade up, assuming that there's some level of basic functionality at the top of the Bears organization, and some in Chicago would say there isn't. Assuming there is, you don't authorize this trade where you give up next year's first-round pick for Justin Fields if you've got your coach and or GM on the hot seat, because the new people may not want Justin Fields. We've seen that. Every coach is going to have a different opinion unless it's a clear-cut, no-brainer franchise quarterback. I mean, when Tony Dungy went to Indianapolis, he didn't say, I'm not so sure about this quarterback you guys have here. That doesn't happen very often because the teams that fire coaches are firing coaches for a pretty damn good reason. It's because the team stinks, and usually the quarterback's right in that boat. All right.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.